I'm Dwight Marlow, and again, welcome you to today's program. We're in Bristol, Tennessee at the First Church of God, and today we're going to have the testimony of Randy and Wanda Burke. They do the Dash ministry. I met them a few weeks ago in a street ministry and invited them down, and they came and just gave really a dynamic testimony. I think their ministry really has a lot to do with just it's centered around salvation and recovery and restoration. I keep hearing that in their message, so I think you'll enjoy this. So please enjoy tonight's witness.
Hi, my name is Randy Burke. I grew up over in Lebanon, Virginia, a little small town. When I was growing up, I guess all through my life growing up, I never was really a church-going person. My mom and dad's ideal of church was to take us down to Crossroads Community Church and drop us off, and then they would come up about 30 minutes later after Sunday school and pick us up. And that was church for the week. When I got up about 14 years old, I figured I'd had enough. I didn't need church. I always figured you was born, you died, you got a dash. And I wanted to live my dash the way I wanted to live it. So I quit going to church. Grew up atheist, I guess you would call it. Like I said, I figured you was in the ground after you was gone. So I lived my life that way. The one thing in my life I never wanted to do growing up was drink. I made a conscious effort not to drink. I had grew up, my dad was an alcoholic, had others in the family that was alcoholic. I'd seen the fights, I'd seen the stuff get tore up in the house. So I just did not want to do that. Nothing else really bothered me to do, I just didn't want alcohol. And I done real good. I made it all through school, no alcohol, didn't want anything to do with it. But like they say, but then one day, I got out of school, started working construction right out of school, and I will skip around a lot when I talk. It's just a habit I've got. A few too many brain cells fried up, but I skip around. But got out of school, started working construction. One of the first jobs we did was down Tennessee Eastman. The guy I'd ride to work with every day, he would always stop. He'd get a 12-pack of beer. I'd get a Mountain Dew. He'd offer me a beer. So, no, man, I don't drink. Next day he'd stop, he'd get 12. You want? I said, no, I don't drink. Well, one day he stopped, and it's about 200 degrees outside, and we'd been pulling wire all day. And he said, you sure you don't want one of these? And I said, yeah, let me try one. And it took that one to get me started. Next day I bought my own. I knew when I started it was a problem, and I started trying to quit right away because I knew that I was going to, it just wasn't good. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't stop. I had a friend out in Lebanon one time. We would laugh and joke and say, I quit drinking one time. It was the worst 20 minutes of my life. But I honestly believed that. I mean, I had got to the point that quick that I couldn't quit. It just had a hold on me. I have done more stupid stuff on alcohol than most people could imagine. A lot of stuff I can't remember. I always say, I can't remember a lot of the stories, but that judge had a real good copy of it. Whenever I went before him, he had a good video of it. But I've woke up in Myrtle Beach one time in the bathtub, still had my clothes on, and my face busted. To this day, I couldn't tell you how I got there. Just one thing after another. Used to lose my car in Lebanon, no bigger than it is. I'd have to get out on weekends or on Saturday or Sunday mornings and try to figure out where I parked my car the night before. When my daughter was about 6, I guess we were living in Clifton Forge, and it's the night Ernie Irvin won his first race. That's the way I always remembered. Ernie won his first race. It was August 25th, 1990. And I can't really tell you anything else about that day other than that Ernie won his first race. And I just seen that on the news the next day because I'd had a party at Coke that day. We had a picnic, and I got really drunk. Now, I don't stand up here to brag about how much I drank. I stand up here to brag about what God can take away from you. Give it to Jesus Christ, and whatever it is, He'll take away from you. Because I had that picnic that day, and I don't remember anything else about it. But about 3 days later, we're riding down the road, and my daughter said, "Daddy said, do me like you did when you was funny." I said, "Girl, what you talking about?" She said, "You know the other day when you was funny, said, do me like you did." And I said, "Girl, I really don't know what you mean." And my ex-wife said, "You hang her out the truck window." We were driving down the road, and I'm hanging her out the truck window, trying to get my 2-year-old son out of the car seat to hang him out the window because he's laughing at Sissy. But I was so drunk I couldn't figure out how to get the truck window or the car seat open. If I'd have dropped her and killed her, I'd have never known it till the next day when I sobered up. So when I heard that, that sobered me right up. And everybody says, "Well, yeah, I can see why you quit drinking." Well, I made it 5 months and 9 days. And I started over again. I thank God today I do not remember hanging her out the window, and she don't remember me hanging her out the window. Do I know that I did it? Yeah, there ain't a doubt in my mind I did it. I don't remember a lot of stuff. Remember, I woke up in Myrtle Beach one time and still had my clothes on in the bathtub. Couldn't tell you how I got there either. So I know I did it. But it just started over. It got to the point with me that I tried everything. I mean, like I said, I'd quit. But then I finally figured out, hey, you're just going to die drunk. Get it over with. Come to realization, I'm going to die drunk. So I didn't worry about it. I had a guy tell me one time, he said, "You know, I never knew you drank." I said, "Well, if you don't see somebody sober, it's hard to tell when they're drinking." But that's true, you know, but I've done and done and done. When I was, you know, God, he's always, he's so much smarter than we are. And he'll take something that's really bad with us, and he can turn it around. You know, he uses numbers a lot in the Bible. You know, go put yourself in the water this many times, or do something this many times, or whatever. Well, my number's 12. I found out that the biggest number in my life, I guess, is 12. My mom called me, and I write a lot of stuff down too. If you notice, if I need the dates, I write little cheat sheets on my arm where I can look at them. But my mom called me in November of '88 and said she was sick. And I said, "Well, what's wrong?" And she said, "They really don't know." And I said, "Well," so every day for a month, you know, I called her and I'd say, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" And she said, "They don't know. They don't know." And I came in, I was living in Charlotte then. I came in for Christmas. And when I went up to my dad's house in Green Valley, he walked in the door. He said, "Go get your mama and take her out town." And I said, "Take her out town?" And he said, "Yeah." And I walked back to the bedroom. I said, "Get up, let's ride out town." She said, "Oh, you don't want to be seen with me." And I said, "Why not?" And she had a do-rag on and she reached up, pulled it off, and she was bald. She didn't tell me she had cancer. 3 months later, she was gone. She died March 15th of '89. So the first time I saw her was Christmas with no hair. And 53 years old, never smoked, never done anything, never drank or anything. And people would come up to me and try to talk to me about God. Man, I didn't want to hear that foolishness. And to me, that's all it was how could he take somebody, you know, Charles Manson's out here walking the streets every day, or not walking the streets, but he's still alive, doing what he's doing. But she's gone at 53. 4 years later, I spent Christmas morning in the funeral home making arrangements for my dad's funeral over and living in the funeral home. He'd had a heart transplant. His heart wouldn't start back. And he died in the recovery room. And still people would try to come to me, "Well, God this and God that." No. He's 56, she's 53. Don't even try that with me. But he still loved them. And I found out they both got saved before they died. So I'll see them again one day. That's the joy that I got. That's the peace I got in that. It's both of them got saved before they died. So one day I'll see them again. You know, if they could, like I said, my daughter, when she was, as long as I can remember with her, she would always, you know, her mom took her to church and stuff when they was growing up. And she'd always try to get me to go to church. She said, Dad, you need to come go to church with me. I said, Dad, don't do the church thing. Well, you need to come. I said, no. So I'd go to the golf course. They would go to the church. And she said, Dad, I want you to quit drinking. I want you to go to heaven. I don't want you to go to hell. I want you to come go to church. I said, no, Dad, don't do the church thing. And she said, well, I'm praying for you, Dad. All I ever remember her saying was, Dad, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. And December the 15th of 99, my son had basketball practice, and we had went in for the basketball practice, and when we come outside, World War III broke out in the parking lot between me and my ex-wife. I mean, we got into a big, huge fight, argument, went back and forth for a long time, and my daughter kept saying, Dad, I want to go home and live with you. I want to go home and live with you. And I told her, I said, girl, one day you'll go home and live with me. You'll never have to go back to that house again. Well, the next day I went to school because I was off that week. And anytime I was off, I'd try to have, go have lunch with my kids. Or she wanted me to go through all of her classes that day. And so I told her that I would. And I went over to the school down in Beaufort. And I went in and she said, handed me a book bag, and I said, well, what's that? She said, that's my clothes. So you told me I'd never have to go back to that house again. So I took them and put them in the car and went in. We went to first period, and she said, you need to go talk to somebody. And I said, I will. Second period rolled around. Well, you really need to go talk to somebody. And I said, well, I will. Third period, she said, when are you going to go talk to them? And I said, what am I going to tell them? Look, my daughter wants to go home and live with me. They don't care about that. And she said, here, I wrote it out for you. And she gave me a 2-page letter. Wrote to DSS talking about how she would kill herself or her stepdad would kill her if she went back to that house. I said, well, let me go talk to them. So I went down and talked to them in the office. I ended up with her mom, DSS, Beaufort County Sheriff's Department, the resource officers, all the principals, the teachers. We had every office full of people, and their thing was, we're going to have her committed. And I said, what do you mean you're going to have her committed? And they said, well, we're going to have her committed. Said, she's threatened to kill herself. And I said, but she lives with an idiot. Well, I didn't say idiot, but God's cleaned up a whole lot on me. Let's put it that way. My grandmother told me one time, I got 8 sons. You got an ass to your mouth and all 8 of them put together. That's another one of the things I can brag about God and what He can take away from you. But I finally convinced them. They said, well, I'll tell you what, you take her to a counselor, and if they say she's okay, we won't commit her. So we went in to see a counselor's office that day, and I called Wanda and said, I'm on my way home, be there in about an hour. Well, we get to the counselor's office, we was there for hours. And the whole time we're there, they kept saying, Sam was saying, Kathy, let her go home with him just for the weekend. No, she's not going home. Well, let her go home with him for Christmas break. It's right here during Christmas. Let her go home with him for Christmas break. She said, understand what I'm telling you. If she never goes home with him again, it'll be too soon. And I was leaned up against the wall in my little chair just sitting there thinking to myself, and I said, man, I don't know if you're real. And I don't know if you're up there or not, but if you are, you need to soften this woman's heart. And the very second that I thought that, Sam said, Kathy, just let her go home with him just for the weekend. That's December 16th of 99. She walked out the door with me, a Thursday. She never went back to her mom's again. December 19th, that's a Sunday. Dad went to church that Sunday. And when they played the first note on the invitation, I grabbed Wanda by the arm and we ran down the aisle. And that little girl about broke her neck getting out of the pew because she knew Dad wasn't going to hell no more. I got saved in the counselor's office on Thursday. There ain't no doubt in my mind. I turned it over to him in there. But Sunday morning, we had something else we had to talk about. And I went up there and told him, I said, man, I can't quit this drinking thing. I've been doing it 19 years. I cannot quit. I have tried. He said, you're exactly right. You can't quit it. But let me take it away from you. And if I live to December 19th of this year, I'll be sober 16 years. So don't tell me He can't take it away from you. Whatever it is, give it to God. Quit taking it back. That's our problem. We want to give it to Him and take it back. If you give it to Him, let Him have it. Let Him take it as. He'll clean you up. He clean you up from inside out. You know, we want to get cleaned up, and churches nowadays are bad about wanting to, well, you get this right, get that right, and get your hair cut a certain way, and get your makeup on, and come in, and take your makeup off, and do this, and come in, and then we'll clean you up, and then you can find, you know, then we'll introduce you to God. No. Turn your life over to Him, let Him on the inside. It's like a coffee cup. Put Him on the inside of your heart. You start cleaning that coffee cup up on the inside, it's going to slosh over and clean the outside up. Let Him slosh over and clean you up. He'll do what needs to be done. Cover what needs to be covered and come into churches. You know, come where you need to be. I guess that's what got us started, was when we were in South Carolina. We got started, our church down there, they came up and wanted us to do Celebrate Recovery, start doing Celebrate Recovery with them. And we went through the classes. They said, we want y'all to be leaders. I said, woo, 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 woo. I ain't leading nobody what I've been through. You know, you got to go with, I'll be a facilitator of a meeting, but I can't lead anybody anywhere. So we went through and started doing the Celebrate Recovery down there. And that's what got us a heart towards wanting to deal with people or minister to people that's got alcohol and drug problems, you know, because if Jesus walked the face of the earth today, He would be in the bars. He would be in the crack houses. Now, He wouldn't be partaking, but He would be in there. We got to get out of the mentality of getting them in and, you know, getting them cleaned up and then bringing them in. And that just, we've been allowed to meet so many people and do so many things. Since about 6 years ago, feel like we got called into this to do it all the time. And, you know, full-time for us just means we'll go anywhere. We still hold full-time jobs, but we still work. And on the weekends and do whatever we can do for the ministry. But we met a little girl. We've been able to minister a lot of people and different ones. Met a girl in White Pines, and I know, like I said, I'm skipping a lot, but we met a girl in White Pines, Tennessee one year because God's allowed us to go to Tennessee, Virginia, Kentucky, West Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and talk to different folks. But we met a girl in White Pines, White Pines, Tennessee that came up, and she was telling me one day, and she was talking, it was last year, and she said, my dad drinks a whole lot. I said, my dad? She said, but I pray for my dad all the time because I want him to quit drinking and I want him to go to heaven. And I said, well, let me tell you about a little 14-year-old girl that prayed for her dad. And I went in and told her the story. And I said, you know how I know that little girl? Because that's my little girl. And she got the biggest tears in her eyes and started rolling down her cheeks. And she said, I'll be 14 next month. And I honestly believe God honored her prayers this year. Now, we didn't keep in touch with her, but I believe that He's honored her prayers with that much sincerity that she had in her heart for her dad that day. But we've been, like I said, we've been allowed to, we go anywhere that anybody will listen to us and try to talk to people. I get real nervous in churches. I'm a whole lot more comfortable sitting talking to a room full of addicts or alcoholics than I am in churches with just 3 or 4 people in them. I mean, it just, but we've seen a mighty God do some mighty things. I mean, Jesus He just blows us out of the water every day. Yesterday we were set up at Quinch River Days in St. Paul. We got to see 7 people that we've ministered to before. One of them clean a day, 2 of them clean 8 months. But they're clean. You know, there's a God out there still doing miracles every day. We just need to let Him do it. But we need to be the vessel to get out there to help Him to do it. I mean, He just... one thing God keeps telling me to tell is talk about is a lot of times we go to a different church just about every Sunday. And we went to one church, and when we pulled in that day, people were standing outside. And when we got off the motorcycle, it was like it almost looked like the building was a vacuum cleaner and pulled them back into the building. And like we scared them or something. And I told her, I said, here, don't take nothing off. Just wear all your leather and go on in. And we went in, and all eyes were on us, you could tell that, but they were just so nervous that we were sitting there. And the guy got up to give the announcements, and his voice was trembling when he was trying to talk. But then the pastor called us up to say a few words. But the guy said, you know, he's had his tie and everything on, and I had a vest and all leather, and he said, you know, I don't think our ministry and their ministry is quite the same thing, the one that was giving the announcements. And I got up there and I was like, boy, that really bothered me. And before I could say anything, I had to turn to him and I said, look, pal, you know, if our ministry is not about the same thing, there's a problem. Now, you might look different from I look, and you'll go places that I won't go, but I'll go places that you won't go. But if our ministry is not about the same thing, there's a problem. And he came over after service, I'll never forget it, and shook my hand, and he said, man, I ain't never needed that so bad. No, this guy was probably 75 years old. He said, I've never needed slapped in the face hard in all my life. He said, thank you. Man, that church came around us, and they loved on us, be a little small church. And anyway, how can we help y'all? That's what we need to know. How can we help y'all? And so whoever it is that walks through your doors, love on them. I told our home church one time, our home church, Rosedale Baptist in Abingdon, and I told them, I said, because you hug an alcoholic or an addict don't mean you'll become one. They need love too. You know, just get out there and love on people. We went to a church back a month or so ago, and I'll probably get in trouble for this, but when we walked in, the guy asked us to come over, and we walked in. There was one guy that spoke to us that knew Wanda, another one that I had met that talked to us a little bit, and we talked to the folks that we were there to see, a couple we did. When we walked in the back of the church was pretty full. And the usher he set us down in the back row. As soon as we sent him in, he set us down at the back row. Dressed pretty much exactly the way I am. This is the way I dress everywhere I go. He set us at the back row. The guy that was sitting beside me, after a couple minutes, got up and went up about 2 rows and sat down. I said, well, maybe he's got somebody coming in. Nobody ever did come and join him. He just went up and moved away from me. I thought, well, maybe I just got out of the shower, but maybe I stink. I don't know. But he went up that far. I was sitting there listening, and everybody that come in, they would say, where would you like to sit? You want towards the middle? You want towards the front? Where would you like to sit? We didn't get that option. We got set down in the back row. When we went to shake hands, you know, they do the shake hands, hug and neck thing. The guy in front of me started to turn around, and then he started to turn back, and I threw my hand out. Didn't give him an option. His wife, she looked around, she looked back and never did. The guy sat beside Wanda went, y'all must have been down the racetrack or somewhere, and never offered to shake her hand. Folks, if that'd been my first time walking into church, I'd never walk back in another one. Do you want that on you? That you would do something like that? Welcome people into your church. You know, that's how you get people, by loving on them. Sometimes we get an hour to love on somebody. Sometimes we don't get that long. But that's what we do. We don't browbeat them with the Bible. We love on them a little bit. Say, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, but I met a man. Now let me tell you about that man. It's all about Jesus Christ. Everything we do is about Jesus Christ. It ain't about Randy Burke, Dash Ministries, or anything like that. It's about Jesus Christ. And that's what we all need to be about. So show people the love. I mean, I want to tell you about a couple people that we've met. And I told you about the one little girl. And I'll tell you what God will do if you'll let Him use you. When you tell God, you do what you need to do. I keep my phone on me all the time. We hand out business cards everywhere we go. Call me while I'm at work. Just call me. If I can't answer, I'll call you back. Leave a name and leave a number. My phone rang at 3:30 one morning. If you call me at 3:30 in the morning, I probably am not going to remember talking to you. And that's just being all honesty. I do not remember talking to you because I don't sleep but about 4 hours a night, and I sleep really good for those 4 hours. Phone rang at 3:30 in the morning. First 10 minutes of the conversation, I stayed in the bed and just talked to the guy. Finally, I got up, walked around a little bit, went in the living room, sat down. I went back to bed, and after I hung up with him, and Wanda said, "Who was that?" I said, "I don't know." "What was his name?" I said, "I don't know." "Well, what did he want?" I said, "I don't know." "Well, what'd you say to him?" "I don't know." She said, "Well, you talked to him like you said, I could hear you talking, but couldn't make out what you were saying." So, "But you talked to him like you was sitting across the room or table from him." And I said, "The only thing I can tell you is this guy's a mess."
Thank you for being with us tonight. We pray that God will bless you and keep you until we meet again. Amen. This fall, we're doing a special series on bivocational pastors, those pastors who work a full-time job and also pastor a congregation. I think they're some of the most dedicated people in the service of the Lord. Paul himself, mentioned that he worked with Priscilla and Aquila as a tent maker to earn his keep while he brought the gospel and evangelized throughout that part of the world. So it's an honorable thing to do. And we're just looking for those folks who would be willing to give their testimony. So if you're a bivocational pastor, or a dedicated bivocational pastor who has an interesting story to tell about his conversion and the work he does, please give us a call at 423-349-7777. Thank you.